Okay, this is for all you college tour folks. We're graphing. And so graphing, if you remember, there's an equation you want to know for if it's a basic graph like y equals mx plus b. That indicates that it's linear. It's a straight line type of graph. And you probably remember that this b value is the y-intercept, and this value in front of x, the coefficient, is the slope. And so if I were to graph this graph over here using slope and y-intercept, I always start with the y-intercept, which is 1. I graph that. I know a couple things about slope. Slope is rise divided by run, so you go vertically and then horizontally. Another thing about slope, slope is positive when it's kind of slanting in this direction and negative when it's slanting in this direction. This is a positive number, so slope is going to have to slant like walking up the hill. It's going to slant this direction. So I'm going to go up 1 over 2. So I'm going to go up 1 over 2 and make a point. Now I can keep doing that, go up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. If I have a straight edge, it's not really necessary. Or I could go down 1 over 2 the other direction, down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. If I have a straight edge, I could just go ahead and draw the graph, which would look something like, whoops, something like that. And just ignore that little piece there. But I'm not going to draw the graph quite yet. I'm going to show you another thing we could do. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to use a table, and you've used a table before. It's just maybe been a while, and not really necessary in this problem, but I'll just show you that it will be actually necessary on some of the problems that you're going to do. So let's use a table. So typically when an equation is solved for y, in this case it's solved for y equals something over here, you can choose some x values. I'm just going to choose some very basic x values. Something like that. And so you can plug in those values. You can say 1/2 times -3 is -3/2 plus 1 is -1/2. -2 is -1 plus 1 is 0. -1/2 plus 1 is 1/2. Maybe you're seeing a pattern here. Plug in a 0, you get 1. See, -1/2, 0, 1/2, 1. This would be 1.5 or 3/2, and this would be 2. And so we get the same points. You notice like this point is 0.22. That's 0.2 comma 2. 0 comma 1. We have some other points, 1 comma 3/2 or 1.5. And so we have some points that can be used to graph the function. So then you would eventually at some point you're going to graph the function. Okay. So a table here could come in handy. You could graph by using slope-intercept form. If you do that, you get -1. Slope is -3/2, so you go up 3 over 2 in the negative direction, and then you graph your line. That's probably the quickest way. The other way would be to plot some points. Choose some x values you want to plug in. Sometimes it's nice to choose some nice x values that kind of work out well. But you have enough points, so we're just going to go and graph it. When they're linear like this, it's really quite simple. Hopefully you can find the equation of this graph just by looking at it. So stop it, take a second, write the equation. The first thing I gravitate to when I'm finding the equation of a linear line is I look at the y-intercept. So I know this is going to be -4 right here because it crosses the y-axis at -4. I try to identify a few other points here, like here's a nice point, goes right through the crosshairs. Here's another nice point, here's another nice point. If I go up 3 over 1 in the negative direction, so 3 over 1 in the negative direction, I've got my equation. Now, you don't want to be scoffed at, so maybe something like this would be the equation. And you've got it. The slope is actually up 3 over 1. Again, up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1. The slope is constant on a linear equation. Here, stop it. Try to write the equation. You want to fit the form y equals mx plus b because this is indeed linear. And so you get a y-intercept of 2, so you know this is plus 2. You see maybe a slope to that point, so up 2 over 3, 2, 3. So this would be 2/3 x equals y, and you got your equation. Okay, let's get to the harder stuff. How do you find the x and y intercepts? This is going to be, by the way, a different shaped graph. It's not linear. I see x squared and y is not being squared, so I know immediately it's going to be some type of parabola. Now, it may not be facing up, but it's going to be a U-shaped figure. So I'm going to find the x and y intercept. So you can do that by, to find the x-intercept, you probably know, because you've found this before, you plug in y equals 0. So if y is 0, you say 0 equals x squared minus 4. So 4 equals x squared. Take the square root of both sides. Don't forget, plus or minus, you get plus or minus 2 equals x. So my x-intercepts are at -2 and positive 2 on the x-axis. Okay, let's find the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, you plug in x equals 0. And when you do that, you get y equals 0 minus 4, y equals -4. So I've got a point down there. And okay, I probably know kind of what this graph's going to look like. I think it's going to go something like this. Like this is going to be a parabola. But I'm not going to draw it yet because maybe you're just not quite familiar enough with parabolas, and it is a good idea to get 5 points actually when you're doing a parabola. So I'm going to make a little table. Again, this one is solved for y. Since it's solved for y, I'm going to plug in a few x values. I've already plugged in -2, 2, and 0, so I'm going to do a few others. Maybe 1 and -1, maybe 3 and -3. I could probably plug in a few more if I wanted to. So I'm going to plug those values in and see what we get. So 1 squared minus 4, 1 minus 4 is -3. -1 squared minus 4 is also -3. Let's see, 3 squared minus 4 is 5, 9 minus 5. And -3 squared minus 4 is also 5. So I've got 4 points to plot. I've got 1, -3, -1, -3, 3, 5, and -3, 5. And now I have enough points to be just a little bit more sure, probably almost a little bit of overkill, getting 7 points before I graphed. And I can graph my parabola. And it looks nice, and we're ready to go on. Now, I do think, well, let's go to this one. Let's find the x and y intercept. So the x-intercept, you plug in y equals 0, and you get, let's see, you basically get -2 equals the absolute value of x, and solve that. Do you remember how to solve that? Oh, wait. No, that's positive 2. Sorry. Let's solve that. You get x equals 2 is the positive case, and x equals -2 is the negative case. So we get 2 x-intercepts, one here and one here. Plug in x equals 0 to get your y-intercept. When you do that, you get y equals -2. So right here, I have a y-intercept. This looks very similar to the last graph. And maybe you're thinking it's going to be a parabola. Although this is absolute value, I don't think it's going to be a parabola, but I could see why you would think that. And so let's plug in a few values here. I already plugged in 2, -2, and 0, so maybe 1, -1, 3, -3. Just plug in a few of those values. 1 minus 2 is -1. Absolute value of 1 minus 2 is also -1. 3 minus 2 is 1. 3 minus 2 is 1. So I've got a bunch of points there. So let's go 1, -1 is right here. -1, -1. 3, 1. 3, -2. 3, -1. -3, 1. And you could keep plugging, maybe you could plug in 4 here, just see what happens. 4 would be 4 minus 2 is 2. 5 would be 5 minus 2 is 3. 4, 2. 5, 3. You've got some of these points here. Pretty soon you realize this is going in a straight line forever, and this is going in a straight line forever. And it looks exactly like a V. And the reason is absolute value. That's kind of your memory trick, that the V is an absolute value. The graph will be shaped like a V. It may be kind of a V off to the side, or a V down, or a V to the other side, but it's going to be shaped like a V. And here, similar, I'm not even going to complete this, I don't think, but I am going to show you this. When you do get to the point of plugging in points here, and you grab a pen and go X and Y, instead of choosing X values to plug in, this one is solve for X. So definitely choose a few Y values. Plug those in, and then graph those points. And you're going to find the X and Y intercept. You're going to find that this one ends up looking something like this. But go ahead and do that one on your own and see if you can get it to look like that. I do want to show you, just to review, your center is going to be at 2, -3 for this one. The radius is going to be 2. So you have to be able to identify an equation. So I really like this form. This is a circle form, and so it's kind of fun to do. This is just a review of yesterday's stuff that we did. Well, let's go ahead and do this. Sorry, I guess I'm going a little quick here. We do have time for this. So the way this works is the center of a circle is the point H, K. And then the radius of a circle, looks like that. And so really those are like the main things about a circle. If you can identify them from the equation, that's awesome. So you see the form of a circle. This is a circle equation. You need to memorize it. And the form is x minus h. In this case, x minus 2. Can you see that h is really 2 in this problem? That's where the positive 2 comes from. I know you're subtracting 2, but in the equation it's being subtracted. And so that's one of the kind of challenging things about this type of thing. Now here's the difference. Y minus k is also being subtracted. The 3 is not being subtracted here. It's being added. So it's really not quite in the right form. And so if I were to put this in the right form, it'd be y minus -3. And we know that's the same thing now as y plus 3. And you can see a little bit easier that you've really got, this is now your k value is -3. And that's where that -3 comes from. It's almost the opposite of what you think. When it's plus 3, k is negative. When it's minus there, the value is going to be positive. Just a tiny thing, but it's surprising how many students will mess this up. R squared is equal to 4, according to the formula. Therefore, R would be 2. Don't think that that's the R value there. That's R squared in the formula. To graph this, it's really quite easy. This is the fun part, I guess, is you go over 2, down -3, you make a point. And then you're going to go 2 in every direction, or at least north, south, east, and west. Up, you go up 2, make a point, to the right 2, to the left 2, and down 2. Then you draw your beautiful circle. I think it's possible you've done this before. I'm just guessing that you might have. So let's try one. Make sure, stop it. See if you can identify this. Figure out what the radius is. Figure out what the center is. That's what, -3, 2, and then figure out your h and k and r squared and plug them in. Right away, you should see that r is equal to 3, which means r squared is 9, so these are wrong for sure. X minus h, so x minus -3 is like x plus 3. Y minus 2 would be like y minus 2. There's your answer. Try one more. And so our radius is 4. So right away I know this is one of them. The center there is at -1, -2. So that's your h and k. So x minus -1 would be x plus 1, y plus 2, and you got your answer. This is the end of the screencast. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed your trip and your Colgate t-shirt. Have a good night.